This playthrough is rated T for teen. Greetings and salutations, viewers. Vauldemare back here with another First Impressions video. Except this time it's a lie. I've played this game before. It's Baldur's Gate by Dungeons & Dragons, the Enhanced Edition by Beamdog. Now, for those of you who want to play this but don't want to shell out like I forgot how much this costs right now, like $30+ or whatever. It's actually not that bad, but if you have the original game, there's a mod you can get that improves like the visual capabilities, which is a lot of the big reason that people got this version of the game. I got it because it was like heavy on sale. My copy's from goodoldgames.com, same with Wasteland 2, and no, I'm not being sponsored or anything like this. I just, like I said before, I just like their, I just like using their thing better because I like the company that hosts the website. But anyway, enough talk about that. Let's talk about this. Currently, my console gaming recording setup, my Hauppauge, has busted, so I'm going to have to use alternate methods of recording for a while until that gets fixed. Right now, I'm using the GeForce NVIDIA like experience thing, so we'll see how this works for recording gameplay for now. It seems to be working quite well, but so consider this another test. Like the previous video with Wasteland 2 was using Windows as setup, which seemed to work pretty decently, but I've noticed the NVIDIA one seems to be a little bit easier to use, but that's just me. But anyway, we're talking about Baldur's Gate here. Oh man, Baldur's Gate from the area of the 90s where isometric RPGs, top-down RPGs were the biggest thing. You know, Baldur's Gate, Fallout, Planescape, you name it. There's a bunch of games out there that use this, at least in the 90s. Now, it comes around every once in a while, but it's usually a dedicated studio that specifically says, hey, we remember these games, let's keep making them. But yeah, these are definitely not money makers, and most AAA studios will never touch these games again unless they make like $1 billion. So we just have to go with what we've got here. So if you play the original version of this without the enhanced, you could pretty much follow along. I'm not gonna initially do like a run through. I'm just gonna do kind of like a, you know, like a decent amount of like showing the game, kind of like before, where it'd just be like kind of an hour long type of situation, and then we'll go from, you know, just to kind of play it out. Now, if people really want me to like do a playthrough of this game, I'll consider it. But these types of games are kind of ones I play on my off time, just for fun or whatever. So anyway, enough with rambling on the beginning. You can play a tutorial how to figure out the game, but I mean, you could just do that from playing the game, and I can show you how that works. Baldur's Gate, and then the Black Pits are basically a combat. You just go through a bunch of fights. So there's some story to it, but it's like isolated from Baldur's Gate in general, so you don't even have to play it if you don't want to. So let's actually play the game of Baldur's Gate and just show you why this game's awesome, at least to me. I know it doesn't appeal to a lot of most modern gamers, but now, if you, yeah, nice little opening there. I do kind of prefer the original opening just because even though this one is a little bit crisper, the original game uses the kind of in-game models to do it. So, but you know, to each his own. But Baldur's Gate is, for those who are unaware, Baldur's Gate is a city in the world of Dungeons and Dragons, created by TSR. I forgot the what year it was exactly created. This is based in the Forgotten Realms setting of Dungeons and Dragons. And the Baldur's Gate, this game takes place during a specific like overarching time period in the the thing is TSR would have like stories based around certain places in the series, like based on book series and stuff like that. And this game takes place after a time called the Time of Troubles. I don't want to say more because it kind of spoils a few things, and you don't actually have to have read those books or know anything about to play this game. If you do, you know a lot more. So let's start the game first, just kind of figure it out. You can do a pre-generated character or load an old one. Let's just do new game there. Now this is based off 2nd edition D&D, so it plays a bit differently from modern games. Although I think on this version, you could play a more loose version of the rules. So if you don't want to play like pure 2nd edition, you can. Yeah, gender, so you can play male or female. So either one, you're cool either way. Because yeah, males of the realm can assume whatever profession they choose, whether wizardry, thievery, or the art of war. Or females. Females of the realm can excel in whatever position they choose, whether wizardry, thievery, or the art of war. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I think there's like a few characters. Well, there's a hand. I mean, obviously, if you choose male, you're referred to as male or female. But there are also certain characters that respond to you differently either way. But it's not like a huge difference. So, but I would suggest playing either or, just to kind of like get the gist of the game. And yeah, you can choose like what your portrait is, kind of like in Wasteland 2. These are a lot nicer, but some of these are based off the original, what were in the original game. Some of these are, I think Wasteland 2 was like that too, because I played a bit of that game off screen. So some of these are actually based off actual characters that you run across in the game. Yeah, this character, well, if we run in, I doubt we'll run into him during this playthrough, because this is a red wizard, Edwin, I think it is, or Eldwin, or whatever. I forgot his name. I think he's a lawful good dwarf, if I recall. It's been a while since I played this game. I almost call this a first impressions. It's almost me just reliving a game after not playing it for years, you know. Khalid, I think his name is. He's a character that can join you. Yeah, he's a ranger that can join you. I think he's neutral. No, he's chaotic good. That's right. Oh, my favorite character of all time. We probably won't see him in this recording. So Minsk, I think it is, with his little hamster Boo right there. If you're a fan of Mass Effect, they make a reference to Boo with Tali and her orb. I forgot his name. Neutral, evil character. But anyway, we'll talk about it as we go over the rest of the game. This is a new character for this version of the game. Lawful evil orc warrior. See, I think this is a new portrait that Beamdog added. I don't think it's an actual character, if I recall. There's another character. Oh no, that's if you play female. Let me just go, since I'll probably not even use him and play him in this group. We'll choose Edwin's, or I think it's Edwin is his name. All right, race. Now, in this world, in Dungeons & Dragons, you get to play as mystical creatures, not just humans, but elves, half-elves, and stuff. So let's just click on to see the descriptions. Humans. Humans are the predominant race in Faerun. Faerun is the planet that Forgotten Realms takes place in. Humans rule most of the significant empires and kingdoms in the realms. They are the most social and tolerant races, excepting perhaps the halflings. Humans may advance as any class other than are the only race that can dual class. Humans may not multi-class. What dual classing is basically you level up in a class, let's say fighter. You level that up in so many levels, and then when you're done with that class, you change your class to, let's say, wizard. Now the problem with dual classing is that if you switch to your new class, you lose out on a good deal of the benefits from the previous class until you hit the same class that you swapped out to. So let's say you have level 5 fighter, you have to get to level 5 wizard. Well, technically your character is level 10 by this point, but you have to get to level 5 wizard to eventually get the benefits of your previous class. Yeah, sounds a bit more complicated than it should be, right? That's probably why they don't even do that anymore in newer D&D games, but that's how it was back in 2nd edition. Multi-classing means you level up. Let's say you're a fighter wizard. Your experience is divided by half between the both classes, but you get experience for both at the same time, so you get the benefits of both whenever they level. And the different classes leveled at different rates, so if I remember correctly, the rogue leveled up faster because there was a lot of... One, it required a little experience. They weren't super powerful. Even at the end, they're kind of okay at the beginning, but unfortunately, second edition, rogues kind of lose out their power about 9th level or whatever. Really, in second edition, if you're not a wizard of some sort, you pretty much only have like a max power. Although in this game, they give you ways to make at least the fighter more viable. But yeah, magic users in second edition are usually, you kind of had to go magic user at some point, otherwise you weren't going to survive to a certain point. Anyway, humans are the basic class. We got elves. You've seen them in like, they're basically based off Tolkien's elves, basically, for the most part. Elves, Lord of the Rings and so forth. Elves tend to be shorter and slimmer than humans. Their features are finely chiseled and delicate. They speak in melodic tones. Elves are looked upon as being frivolous and aloof. They concern themselves with natural beauty, dancing, frolicking, and other similar pursuits. Their humor is clever, as are their songs and poetry. There are 6 racial divisions of elves within the realms: gold elves, moon elves, wild elves, sea elves, dark elves, the drow. For those who aren't aware of, the most famous of dark elves is Dritz Duerden. Even a layman probably knows who Dritz is or have seen artwork of him somewhere. And winged elves, Averial. Elves have the following resistance traits. 90% resistance against charm and sleep, so that there are spells in the game called charm and sleep, so if someone tries to charm you, elves have a very high resistance and just go at, no, we're awesome. Infravision allows you to basically kind of see in the dark. It's not perfect clarity. You basically see like shapes and form, kind of like a black and white, more or less, than straight darkness. +1 Thaco. Thaco is how you hit in the game. Yeah, we'll talk about that if we ever get to combat. Oh boy. If you played modern D&D, this whole Thaco and all this other stuff is just like almost unnecessarily pointless, but that's what I grew up with, and I still kind of have a fondness for it, even if it's not the most easiest to learn. But I wouldn't change it for anything. But anyway, +1 Thaco again with bows, short swords, and long swords. So that means they have a bonus to hit if they use any of those 3 weapons. They also get a -5 to open locks. So if you're a thief, open locks is the ability to open locks and chests and stuff like that. +5 to pick pockets, which means you can sneak up people and pick their pockets. And +5% to move silently. And then +10% to hide in shadows. So they're pretty straightforward. And then when you choose the class, they get a +1 dexterity attribute, while -1 to constitution because they're not as hardy as other races. Half-elf. Half-elves are a mix of human and elven blood. They're handsome folk with good features for each of their parental races. A half-elf has the curiosity, inventiveness, and ambition of their human ancestors, and the refined senses, love of nature, and artistic taste of their elven ancestors. Half-elves have the following traits: 30% resistance against charm and sleep, so not as good as their elven counterparts. Infravision, and they get 10% pickpockets and 5% hide in shadows. So, now you're probably wondering why not just choose a elf over a half-elf other than the -1 constitution. Well, in the game I don't think this game takes use of that, but in the original game, certain races could only level up in a class for so many levels. Like, elves could only level up in, like, I think their best class was like magic user, and I think they could get to like level 15, I believe. But half-elves had like the option to level up higher in certain classes to half-elf or elf. So a lot of this stuff kind of is more RP role-playing for those. Because some people will play these games just for pure role-play. They'll try to, I mean, you still need to use the mechanics, but they'll role-play certain situations even if it's not most advantageous. Which I like games that allow you to kind of do that without having to stick to pure power gaming. Although you can power game this game to an extent anyway. Anyway, we got the dwarves. Dwarves are classic. You're gonna have to toss me. Dwarves are short, stocky, easily identifiable by their shape and size. They have ruddy cheeks, dark eyes, dark hair. Dwarves tend to be dour and taciturn. They are given to hard work and care little for most humor. It's not funny. It's almost like... Never mind. I was going to do a crude joke. They enjoy beer, ale, meat, and most of all, they love gold! There are 4 facial divisions of dwarves within the realm: shield dwarves, gold dwarves, wild dwarves, and Duergar. Duergar are the dark dwarves. They're similar to drow in terms of they live in the Underdark, so their skin is darker because of their lack of ties to the... Well, actually, you would think with their lack of not having light, they would be pale. Yeah, it's a little weird, because most animals that don't have ties to any, that never see light are like super like pale. At least when it comes to like fish anyway. But I don't know. I don't study biology, so I don't know all the details of it. It's just kind of funny when you think about it. Dwarves have the facial traits: +2 bonus to saving throw versus paralyzed, poison, death. Basically, they're hardier against those three stats versus rod, staffs, and wands, and versus spell. Yeah, back in D&D 2nd edition, they had like saving throws for like all these different things. Nowadays, it's just tacked to like a handful of things. But back in the day, well, first and second edition were all about almost all about the number. Other than role playing, it was all about the numbers, really. Kind of like Pathfinder, really. Although Pathfinder is almost too much to the numbers, if you know what I mean. For those who played Pathfinder, based on the Constitution, so they want to have high Constitution for those classes. Infravision, they can open locks, find traps, detect illusions, and set traps. And they get a +1 to con because they're hardy, but they get -1 to dex and -2 to charisma. The reason it's Constitution, why there's such a difference between Constitution and dex in terms of how many minus you think, oh, that's terrible. It's because Constitution dictates HP and other such features. So that's why, from a game mechanic, that it's good to have high HP. Even if you're role-playing, you still want to have high HP. Dex can be kind of like, effects is not that big of a deal unless it's below like 7 or something like that. So you either want, if you're in between like 7 and like I think 16 in dex, I think there's like that -1 is not going to make a difference at all. Charisma is kind of different though. Charisma in the D&D setting, it's based on how many followers you can get and how many people you affect through role playing, because you get little bonuses to it. But the thing is, in this game, charisma is not much of a factor. It's more important for classes that deal on charisma as being a main stat, like your paladins or clerics. So if this isn't, like, these aren't big deals, really, when you think about it. This can kind of not be a big deal depending on where you are. Like, if you're in between, like, 9 and, like, 14, I think a +1 con's not really going to affect much. It's when you get, like, 15 and higher that's a big deal, so... Yeah, when you look at all these numbers, you think that's a big deal, but yeah, if you played 2nd edition, you can kind of figure out that, like, it's not as... You don't have to worry about it as much. Halflings. Halflings are short and generally plump people. Think of, basically, hobbits. Halflings are versions of hobbits, basically. Very much like small humans. Their faces are round and broad and often quite florid. Their hair is typically curly, and the tops of their feet are covered with coarse hair. Overall, they prefer the comforts of home to dangerous adventuring. They enjoy good living, rough humor, and homespun tales. There are 3 racial divisions of halflings within the realms: the harefoot, the tall fellow, and the stout. Halflings have the following traits: +2 saves against poison, paralyzed, poison, death, rod, staff, 1 versus spells. So they also have the same similar dwarves, but their Constitution. They get a +1 to hit if they use slings. Now you're probably thinking, slings? Why not bow and arrow? Have you read David and Goliath, or have you heard the story of David and Goliath? The Romans used to use slings back in the day. Those things are deadly. And it's not like a little tiny rock. It's like a half-a-pound ball of lead getting thrown at your head. You know, so it's, I mean, it's not as fast as a gun, but it's the same concept. Anyway, they can open locks, yeah. If you can't already tell, halflings are almost designated to be thieves. You know, stereotyping. No. They get +1 to dex, -1 to strength and wisdom. Same thing with strength and wisdom. Unless you're at a certain number point, this number won't affect hardly anything. Well, okay, technically, no, I guess it's Constitution. Because on strength, if you want to bend bars or lift gates or whatever, okay, that'll affect things. But if you're the thief, you're not going to be bending bars and lifting gates, okay? So, but anyway, gnomes. Gnomes kin to the dwarves. Gnomes are noticeably smaller than the distant cousins. Gnomes, as they proudly maintain, are also less rotund than dwarves. Most have dark tans and brown skin, white hair, and rather large noses. Gnomes have a lively and sly sense of humor, especially for practical jokes. They have a love for nature that is only matched for their love for gems and jewelry. There are 2 racial divisions of gnomes with the realms: rock gnomes and the deep gnomes. Svernerblum? I always get different connotations online on how to pronounce Snurfnevlin. It's not Snurf, but I just say it's Svernerblum. Whatever, I'll have to look it up again. They're basically similar in the terms of Duergar and Drow, although Sverneblum are more good aligned as a race. Gnomes have the following traits: saving throw versus staff, rod, staff, and wand. Infravision, they can also pretty good at seas, although gnomes tend to be specially designed to be illusionists because they get like intelligence. Yeah, illusions, the ability to trick opponents by casting false images and stuff like that. Half-orcs. Half-orcs are born from the union of a human and orc parent. They are as tall as humans, but a little heavier due to their muscular build. Their greenish pigmentation, sloppy forehead, and jutting jaw, prominent teeth, and coarse body hair make their lineage plain for all to see. In the Sword Coast, half-orcs are tolerated, as unlike in the north, the local people haven't had centuries of warfare with orc kind. Half-orcs are known for their great strength. Half-orcs have the following traits: infravision, strength, constitution. Yeah, they got a big... if you're making a fighter class, this is a good race to pick. They get minus 2 intelligence, but like I said, depending on your class, that's not going to matter what his intelligence is. Now, if for those who are role-playing or want certain story aspects to happen in the game, you either want to be a human or a half-elf. I think you could be an elf for certain situations, but... not in this game, but in the sequel, which you can actually port in your character from the first game to the second game. You can have romantic scenes with certain characters in the game, but it'll only happen if you're specific races. So unfortunately, well, at least as far as I know, they didn't change that in the Beamdog version of the game. I haven't seen. So if you want to have a romantic storyline with any of the characters, you need to be, yeah, like I said, human and half-elf for sure. I forgot. I think there's like 1 or 2 characters that don't mind if you're an elf, but if you're any of the other races, it won't happen. So keep that in mind if you care about this stuff. If you don't care at all, if you've already played the game and you want to play someone different, go right ahead. Just giving you the thing that you'll lose out on a few things if you don't do that. So let's go with the boring human. So class. Okay, classes are, yeah, this is how your play style as the game. So Fighter is the, I think in its first edition, I think it was called the Fighting Man in the original game. Yeah, this is the class most first timers play because it's a little bit well, it's easier to a point, but they do have a lot of numbers added to them for hitting and stuff like that. But most people play fighters because it's usually hit things. So the fighter is a champion swordsman, soldier, brawler who lives or dies by his knowledge of weapons and tactics. Fighters can be found in all front of any battle, contesting toe-to-toe with monsters and villains. A good fighter needs to be strong and healthy if he hopes to survive. You may wear helmets. oh, I can't wear a helmet. Oh, surprise. In second edition, wearing a helmet, there are certain magical items that are important. In second edition, you could call shot. I don't know if that's really big in this game. I don't think it remember being a feature, but you could call shot. If people didn't wear helmets, you could get extra damage if you hit them in the head. If you use psionic rules, which are basically mind powers and all the other stuff, if you didn't wear a helmet, you were prone to psychic attacks, little things like that. So may wear any armor. So yeah, you could wear anything from light to heavy armor without any restrictions, and use any weapon. Grand Mastery gives you the ability to get extra bonuses to hit and damage if you master in a specific weapon. May specialize in specialization. May 2 weapon style. Hit time die 10. If you're a dual class with this, you want to be strength. Most people, when they dual class fighter, they usually kind of do a combination of rogue. They usually do rogue for a while, and then switch to fighter after like so many levels. But you can dual class with any class. Most people tend to dual class. They start as a non-magic class user, and then they dual class into a magic user is usually how they do it. But I mean, you can play however you want. So, Ranger, they're basically fighters with a bow, and they have attunement to nature. Yeah, the Ranger is a warrior woodsman who is skilled with weapons and is knowledgeable in the ways of the forest. The Ranger often protects and guides lost travelers and honest peasant folk. The Ranger needs to be strong and wise to the ways of nature to live a full life. Yeah, you can wear helmets, any weapon, and armor. May not exceed specialization in any weapon class. May achieve specialization in 2 slots in any fighting style. Begin specialization and may 2 weapon style instead of fighter, which is they can also do 2 weapon style as well. Rangers tend to be made as either 2 weapon fighters or bows, but that's because of Steward, really. May select racial enemies. Basically, they get a bonus hit against certain enemy races. It's very specified, unfortunately, because obviously this game's gonna have a whole bunch of different characters. That's why most people, Rangers, tend to just do goblinoids like orcs and stuff like that, because they're the most common enemy in the D&D. May use charm animal once per day. That means you can get help from an animal. companion. Hide in shadows with wearing no armor, so even if you're not a thief character, you can at least still hide in shadows. Druidic spells. Druidic spells deal with like nature magic, basically. There is some healing, but it's all about deal with nature. Rangers can only be good. In this game, there's a thing called alignment, but we'll get into that when we actually choose alignment. And then it shows you how to dual class. Paladin. Basically, paladins are the frickin' squares of the group. No, a paladin is a warrior bold and pure, the exemplar of everything good and true. Light the fire, the paladin is a person of action and combat. However, the paladin lives for the ideal of righteousness and justice, honesty and piety and chivalry. Strives to be a living example of these virtues that any may learn from him as well as gain by his actions. Yeah, you can wear helmets, any armor, specialization, may lay on hands, which is a cool ability. Because then you can heal once per day so much. That's why they were kind of nice, because they were fighters with minimal healing. Usually they'd use it on themselves, unless you're an actual good paladin, then you'd use it on other characters. Detect Evil. Detect Evil is one of those spells that almost kind of ruins roleplay. So instead of figuring out if a person's evil, you can basically just look at them and go, hey, you're evil, we're not going to work with you. So it's like, or I know what you're going to be doing, so I'm not going to trust you. So it's almost like a roleplay killer right there. Protection from evil gets you bonuses against evil creatures. That's why you want to detect evil, so you can cast protection from evil. I get the mechanic, but it's a roleplay kill. I still call it a roleplay killer. Well, okay, it doesn't completely kill roleplay, but it removes suspense and figuring out if a person's truly evil or evil intended or whatever. May turn undead as a cleric, 2 levels lower, which you're usually not going to be doing that, especially if you have a cleric in the group. May cast priest spells starting level 9, receives a +2 bonus to all saving throws, which is really nice there. That means you're less likely to get, insta-killed or anything like that with like death spells or whatever. You have to be lawful good. There is a class in D&D called the Anti-Paladin, but I don't know if that's in this version of the game or not. Cleric, your standard healers. The cleric, the heal bot, as some would like to call it. The cleric is a generic priest, generic, of any mythos who tends to the spiritual needs of the community. Though he's both protector and healer, he's not purely defensive. When evil threatens, the cleric is well suited to seek it out on its own ground and destroy it. The opposite is true of evil clerics as well. There's also many variations in between. Yeah, clerics are the healers of the group. Clerics have gotten better in D&D over the years, especially like in recent editions, like in 5th edition. They're still useful, but they have kind of like a certain set. Like in 5th edition, they're a lot more powerful than they are in like earlier versions. But anyway, wear helmets, any armor. May only use non-bladed weapons, which is one of those weird things. So they can't use swords, but they can use like a club or a flail, which are just as nasty, more crushing than slicing. May only become proficient in one weapon class. Yeah, you can't really... clerics are supposed to be healers, not like masters of the art of fighting, They can only go for one fighting style, so choose one and stick with it. May turn undead. So turning undead means that you can either make them run away or completely destroy it, depending on how strong you are. Priest spells, healing, defensive, stuff like that. Druids. Druids are the nature priests, basically. Druids serve the cause of nature neutrality. The wilderness is a community, and he uses his special powers to protect it and preserve balance in the world. You can't wear metallic armor as a druid. This is supposed to be based off the druids of, like, England and stuff like that. Their ideas, stories, and concepts and whatever. May equip bucklers and non-metallic shields. So yeah, no metal. Only stuff of nature, because metal is... Technically, metal like iron that's smith is a human thing, or a human civilization thing. So they want nothing to do with like civilization. Although they weirdly can use scimitars and daggers and stuff like that. So it's weird, or spears. Anyway, yeah, weapon, only one weapon. Fighting, may cast druid spells. They may shapeshift at later levels, which is pretty cool. So you can make like man-wolf or animorphs. That was a creepy show. Immune to poison at 15th level. I'm trying to remember what level you can get at the end of this game. I know it's pretty high, but I don't think you can get to level 20. I think that's I think this is designed for the cases of the sequel, Baldur's Gate 2, because then you can get to high levels in that one. But it's been a while since I've beaten this game, but I don't remember being able to get to level 20. I thought you could get to like level 15 by the end of this game or something, but I could be wrong. But yeah, they get resistances. You have to be true neutral because, you're not biased or anything. You're supposed to be kind of in the middle. Mage, typical wizards. You're a wizard, Harry. The wizard strives to be a master of magical energy, shaping them and casting them as spells. To do so, he studies strange tongues and obscures facts and devotes much of his time to magical research. A wizard must rely on knowledge in which to survive. Wizards are rarely seen adventuring without a retinue of fighters and men-at-arms. Yeah, wizards are glass cannons. Because there are different types of schools of magic, there are different types of wizards. The mage studies all types of magic and learns a wide variety of spells. His broad range makes him well suited to the demands of adventuring. Class features may not wear any armor. Yep. In later versions you could wear armor, but it'd give you a huge restriction. Like, technically you could wear armor in this game, but the way armor works in second edition is that if you wear any armor, you can't cast spells. So, but for the purposes of this game, I don't even think it lets you wear armor, even if you can't do it, just for game mechanic purposes. Yeah, you can't use a lot of weapons either, so you're not really supposed to be smacking with your wizard. Usually I give wizards like a sling or something like that if they need to attack, but you shouldn't be attacking with your wizards. You should let your fighters do that and have your wizards cast a spell when it needs to. May only become proficient with one weapon. Yep. May not place any slots in any fighting style, so yeah, you can't really be good at any fighting. You can do it, but you don't get like bonuses or anything like that. Arcane spells, fireball, stuff like that. The Thief, the one that most stories are based around. To accomplish his goal, for all good or ill, the thief is a skilled pilferer. Cunning, nimbleness, and stealth are his hallmarks. Whether he turns his talent against innocent passerbyers, wealthy merchants, or oppressors, and monsters is a choice for the thief to make. Yeah, he may not wear heavy armor than studded. Yeah, light armor for you. Can only include bucklers. Can use kind of like short swords and all the. At least has a decent weapon, but you can't get like specialization or anything like that. But at least you can have a bit better of a fighting chance than the wizard. You can use points to improve certain thieving abilities, which affect, obviously, as they say here. And then you get an automatic bonus at the beginning. And then one of the big things about the thief was the ability to backstab. So in combat, if they get behind an opponent or the opponent is unaware of their location, they get the ability to do extra damage. Now, in most second edition games, unfortunately, a lot of monsters at high levels become immune to backstab. So that's why the thief is considered initially a weaker class than others, despite seeing these huge numbers like, oh, I'm times 5. But if a creature is immune to it, like an undead or a elemental, well, tough crap. May use the set snare. I don't think I ever used that ability, frankly, but that's traps and stuff like that. Set snare is set trap in the chosen location with no hostile creatures in sight. The traps grow more powerful at the thief's level and can only be triggered by enemies. I think this is new to the game or at least because I don't remember this being an original feature in the game. It was a way to make traps useful, but you have to basically, if you're going to do traps, you're going to have to play a more slow game. We're going to have to sneak on, basically go sneaky, find an enemy, go back, set the traps, distract the enemy to make them come towards you, and then activate them. So if you're playing like an easy mode, you're not going to worry about this too much. If you're playing hard mode, then yeah, you might want to take advantage of that. But yeah, you can't be lawful good because you're a thief. Bard, yep, typical singer of songs and tales. The Bard is a rogue, but he's very different from the thief. The Bard's strength is his pleasant and charming personality. With it and his wits, he will make his way through the world. A bard is a talented musician, a walking storehouse of gossip, tall tales, and more. He learns a little bit about everything. Yeah, jack of trade and master of none. That crosses his path and is a jack of all trades. Oh, I should have. I wasn't really looking when I said that because I was basically just rambling on, and the game says it. So, while many bards and scoundrels, their stories and songs are also welcome almost everywhere. May not wear armor heavier than chainmail. Spells cannot be cast while wearing. Yeah, see, he can wear chainmail, but if you want to use the bard's ability to cast a small amount of spells, then you can't be wearing armor. So that's kind of the toss-up. Can't wear bigger bucklers. Can have proficiency in a fighting style, but no specialization. You can pick pockets. Lore score. Lore score helps you basically figure out magic items and like what they can do without having to cast a spell to figure them out because you just randomly have read it somewhere. Yeah, you can start casting spells at level 2. May use the Bard Song ability, which allows you to restore morale, remove fear, protection from fear, and that's, I think, yeah, that's it on that one. In certain later editions, they give you bonuses to hit because it improves your morale, but in this game, it only does a couple of things. It can only be neutral. Yeah, you kind of play where the wind blows. Sorcerer are basically wizards that don't rely on books to learn spells. They just naturally have the ability to cast magic. Sorcerers are practitioners of magic who are born with the innate ability to cast spells. It is thought that the blood of some powerful creature flows through their veins. Perhaps they are the spawn of the gods themselves, or even dragons walking in humanoid form. In the original game, sorcerers weren't a thing. You were just a wizard. Sorcerers is more of a 3rd edition thing, but they were kind of added. I think, I'm trying to remember, I think that in the one of the mage books specifically, like 2nd edition had these books where you could specialize a wizard outside the main campaign. It was a way to buy more books and, you know, spend more money, but it was basically a way to specialize characters. And I think sorcerers was kind of a specialization, if I recall. Regardless, the sorcerer's magic is intuitive rather than logical. They know fewer spells than mages and acquire spells more slowly, but they can cast spells more often and have no need to select and prepare spells ahead of time. Sorcerers cannot specialize in magic the way mages do. Other than these differences, a sorcerer is very similar to mage. Basically, a mage, you have to basically prepare everything every day, or at least have the same spells prepared when you sleep. So it takes a lot more book work. While as a sorcerer, you just go boom, 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 and then that's it. So that's for players who want to play a wizard without all the book work attached to it, basically. Can't wear any armor, can only use the same weapons as a mage, cannot have a fighting style, cast spells. They don't have to have a spell book, because they only learn a certain number of spells. That's why mages can be a bit more useful, because they can learn all these spells and they can buy spells to add to their book, and so they have an option to generalize themselves, while sorcerers can only have so many. Monks. I think monks were added later on to 2nd edition, near the end of its line before 3rd edition. Monks are warriors who pursue perfection through contemplation as well as action. They are versatile fighters, especially skilled in combat without weapons or armor. The monks cannot cast spells. They have unique magic of their own. They channel subtle energy called ki, or chi, depending on where you're reading it from, which allows them to perform amazing feats. The monk's best known feat is their ability to stun an opponent with an unarmed blow. Yeah, like the sorcerer, monk, and shaman, these are more 3rd edition feats, which I think were, I don't think these were in the original game. I think these were added by Beamdog because of 3rd edition and later onward versions of the game. You could play a bard in 2nd edition or 1st edition, but yeah. Anyway, sorry. Yeah, monks can't wear an armor. They can use the thief class weapons. They can actually become proficient in weapon and style. Yeah, one style weapon. So a little bit better than like a thief, but they can move faster than the characters. They make an unarmed strike, which gets better at player levels. So if you don't want to use a weapon, your unarmed fists aren't as well. I guess it depends, but technically a fighter is better at fighting than a monk is. Monks are meant to run around and kind of like cause a little damage and distraction, but yeah, unarmed becomes magical after a certain point, so your fists have magic somehow because of chi or ki, and they have a +2 saving throw against spells. Yeah, they have all these little things. You can tell that they're a class that's been added on later because of all this extra stuff that's added into the text. +1 against missile attacks, so shooting archery or missiles at them are hard to do. Armor class increases because they can't wear armor. Stunning blow, which basically makes them lose a turn for so many turns. No. All successful attacks on the next round forces the victim to save versus spell or be stunned. The special ability automatically modifies normal attacks. No targeting is needed to be done. Can be immune to all diseases at 5th level, so they can't be. Oh, and they also can't be slow and hasted. So slow means you can only like do one action per turn, which like either move or whatever. So that can be, in this game it means just you move a lot slower and stuff like that. Hasted means you move faster and can attack quicker. They can lay on hands similar to Paladin. Speed factor, all that is, it was a 2nd edition mechanic, meaning depending on the weapon you use, that'll affect your turn in the order. So if you used a faster weapon, you're more likely to go first because your weapon activates quicker. But if you had a slower weapon, you might go last on the turn because it takes you a while to get to that. That feature was taken out in later games. Less bookwork, basically. Immune to charm at 9th level, immune to poison at 11th. Gains minus another, goes faster at higher levels. Quivering palm at 13th, which is the next successful attack forces the opponent to save versus spell or die. Yeah, they just straight up die if they fail. Obviously, it doesn't work on like undead and stuff like that. But 14th gains magic resistance, which means if a spell is cast on them, there's a small chance of it just not working. Period. 20th level becomes immune to non-magical weapons. So if they don't have a +1 sword, then they can't be hurt by it. They have to be lawful. And the reason these are in this version of the game, because if I remember correctly, in the original version of the game, it was like fighter, ranger, paladin, cleric, druid, mage, thief. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, bard was in this version. Well, actually, it might have been added to the 2nd version, because some of these classes weren't even in the original version. They were in the 2nd game. and then this version of the game just added them in retroactively. But I don't, because Sorcerer, Monk, and Shaman were added to this version of the game because there's in this game they added, I think it was 4 new characters, and one's an anti-paladin, one's a sorcerer, well actually a mad wizard or a wild wizard or whatever, a monk. I don't remember the shaman character. I think it's been forever since I played this version of the game. But yeah, these are kind of new to only this version. So if you don't have this version, you're not going to be able to choose like these classes right here. So, Shaman. Shamans forge a divine connection with the natural world, similar to the way druids commune with nature. But shamans are more spiritual than primal, so ghosts and stuff like that. They directly tap into the energies that flow through air and earth, through plants and animals, even through the dead, and shape these energies to obey their will. Nowhere is there more evident than the ability to summon powerful spirits as guardians and defenders. A being of 2 worlds, shamans value balance over nature or dominance. They only wear leather, studded hide armor, can't wear bucklers. Basically the same as druid in a lot of sense. They learn. They're similar. They're like the sorcerers of druids or clerics, basically. But they do get their own unique spells into them. They can detect illusions. They get a dance. Dances can summon spirit allies by performing a ritual dance. While dancing, the shaman takes a -4 penalty to armor class and cannot move. Attack, cast spells, use items and special abilities, or perform any other activity. Each round while the shaman dances, there's 35% chance, plus 2% chance. Basically all the percentages of summoning different, and you can summon like minor animal spirits and bigger animal spirits. It's random. Does not gain bonus spells for high wisdom. Yeah, the cleric gains extra spells for high wisdom. I don't think wizards do. I think only clerics do. But it's been a while since I played 2nd edition, I'll admit, folks. They can only be neutral good, true neutral, or neutral evil, which that's more of an RP thing. That rarely comes into place during the actual game. I know at higher levels there are certain spells that affect people who are aligned in a specific way. You can't dual class or multi-class with this, and you can't have a stronghold, which it's only strongholds are only added in the 2nd game and only in the enhanced edition, because I don't remember the original game having a stronghold. In D&D, when you hit like 9th level, it was required that you start having a stronghold of some sort, so you could build followers and stuff like that. And usually heroes would retire at that level because that was pretty much at well, not the peak of their power, is actually a pretty good point where they're like, oh well, we're done there. So but yeah, any class, usually I tend to play a mage, but if you want the party that I would want to play as or have in the group at this time, I want to play something other than a mage. But you could if you want. You can have multiple mages in the group. You just have to worry about overstack and people not doing anything during certain thieves. So in this case, I'm going to play a bard. So, and then you can choose class kits. What those are is if you got the specific books like the guide, or what was it? Was it a guide? I think it was called a guide to whatever. And if you had like a guide to like wizards, they have a thing called kits. So basically kits allowed you to customize your bard to or wizard or whatever, to a very specific thing. The fighters and clerics and all that also had books like that too. So you have like a generic bard, which has all the stacks here. You can make a blade, which is more of a fighter version of the bard instead, which allowed you to get a 2-weapon style in this one. I don't remember the blade being like this in the actual book. It might be improved for the purposes of the game. But yeah, if you want more of a combat bard, you choose the blade. Yeah, you don't, because of that, you don't get to pick pockets as often, or your lore value is pretty low. So if you're one of those that wants to know magical items or scrolls or whatever without having to cast like a spell to do it, lore basically allows you to know that almost immediately. So if you don't care about that and want more of a fighter bard, then choose this. Jesters, they can't do songs, but they instead it affects like opponents instead. Yeah, they can confuse and stuff like that, or knock unconscious. So basically, your song doesn't do anything, which really, fear can be dangerous at certain levels. But the thing is, if you have a cleric or other spellcasters, they can cast protection of fear. which is a spell slot, but it's a toss-up. But Jester's not a bad one to go with if you want to annoy your opponents. Although at certain levels, at least being able to be slowed is a pretty big deal. But certain enemies are immune to like certain effects on this, so you're kind of hindering yourself in certain regards. Scald is like a normatic. Oh, it says here, a normatic bard, warrior of great strength and skill and virtue. His songs are inspiring sagas of battle and valor. The Scald devotes his life to his pursuits. Also another combat version of the bard. His looks like his. I don't even remember the Scald in the original Book of Bards. This might have been something that they added from later versions of D&D to kind of like give the bard something a little extra. Because the whole bonus to hit is something that's now common in bards. It started in 3rd edition, I think, and onward. So, but yeah, the song gives bonuses to hit damage, and it looks like AC as well. But you can't pickpocket as often. So it's almost which I don't really care about pickpocketing. Although pickpocketing, there are certain items you can only get from pickpocketing, or you can pickpocket everyone in the game, as far as I'm aware of. But yeah, there are 1 or 2 times where pickpocketing can be useful, or you can get a unique item from it, but it's not required, so. I was thinking either the Jester or the Scald. Blade wouldn't be bad. I like having the ability to have lore though, so we'll choose a Scald just for fun. Actually, maybe I should have changed my picture there. Whatever, that's fine. Alignment. Now, alignment is how you act in the world of D&D. It's supposed to be more. The idea of it is more kind of an idea of how to play your character, like when you're role playing, if you care about that type of thing. In game, it only affects a handful of things, and there were certain spells in D&D that said like protection against evil, and protection against good, protection against law. That's why alignment's there, because of those spells. If you didn't have that, then those spells would be useless. Which you could have a game without those, but a lot of people sometimes don't really pay 100% to the alignment system. But like I said, it's more of a role-playing suggestion than anything, and some people don't even know how to do that very well. Neutral good is basically you're in the middle. You basically do things for the benefit of being good. Outside of like the social structures or law or whatever, you just go, I'm going to help this person, not because the law tells me to, but because I should help this person, that type of thing. Lawful neutral means you more follow a code than anything. Or an order specifically. You follow like, you either follow a code or you follow a specific order or faction and their laws. Based on their whims more than anything. True neutral means you're just basically in the middle. You don't follow the orders of law, chaos, or good or evil. You try to stay balanced in all ways. That's pretty much what that is. Chaotic neutral means you're basically the wind. You basically just go wherever you want to, do whatever you want. To an extent. Obviously, if you start murdering people on the street because on a whim, that makes you chaotic evil, not chaotic neutral. So people tend to get that wrong a lot of the times, because evil acts like killing, murdering, and pillaging are still evil acts. Now, can you do evil acts every once in a while, kind of on a whim? Sure, but if you do it all the time, it's considered more of an evil act. Yeah, lunatics and madmen are that, but lunatics and madmen do not always just straight up murder people, and the neutral evil is you basically do evil for evil's sake. So if you just it could be anything from being annoying to like, killing someone but you kill someone. If you kill someone, you kill them because they slighted you, not because you just wanted to. You know what I mean? That's chaotic evil if you kill people just because you want to or whatever. But yeah, basically evil is just being evil for evil's sake almost. I may be generalizing it a bit, but they take advantage of the situation to do evil acts. They know what they're doing, type of thing. So it'll make me chaotic neutral, even though that won't really affect a whole lot in the game. But bards tend to be more neutral or good or whatever than anything. So abilities. This is your stat score. You can do. You can slightly affect your score a bit by your stats, what the roll is. But if you want to like have a it's almost better to get a roll by like doing the total roll and then affecting there and trying to get high points overall. So I'm more looking at my total roll than the pure stats there. Yeah, you could like spend forever on something like this. I missed a good one with 86. Yeah, sometimes I start clicking too fast, and then I missed it again because I had my button on the finger on the button. Let's see if I can get. I don't want to spend too much time on this because. I mean, I could probably cut the video. Ah, there's an 87. See? Ah, no, I did it again. No. Yeah, you kind of want to. There we go, 87. Actually, charisma is actually good for bards just because of the way their skills work. That's actually not a bad array already. I don't really need. I'd actually look at. I'd have to pull up my old 2nd edition books and see what stats I actually want. Cause, so I think I could get to like 10 or something like that and be fine. Because we're not really attacking with a bard per se. Well, maybe you want to do. Based on unless my bard is at like 16 strength, this part doesn't really matter too much. Same with dex. I need dex. I think 15 gets you what you want, like a -1 do. Same with con. I could lower my con a bit and improve like my dex to try and get to 18. Let's see if I can actually get to. So I think I can only get to, yeah, 18 is the max you can get for that. Since you have some spells, you kind of want to have your intelligence to be okay as well. I know this isn't the perfect one, but I think I'll go with this. Okay. Yeah, I need to pull up the old 2nd edition guide. One day I'll do something like that just to show you. Skills. This is what the. See, we'll just do. We'll do single weapon like a. Do a single weapon and then do like a short bow or something like that. Because usually we only have longbows are really only those who have more strength-based use than anything. Let's see. I think I'm trying to. I think in this case it might not be. It might not be a big difference either way. Other than, I think you get more longbows than you do short bows in the game in terms of like magic items and stuff like that. Yeah, and you got your classic Bastard Sword is basically almost like a katana. It's almost based similar, except in this case the shaping of the sword is. Bastard Swords are more straight, but back in the day, Bastard Swords are basically katanas. But in this case, they're slightly different. If I remember correctly, the katana, there's only like a handful. Yeah, it says there's a warning if you choose katana that there's only like, I think there's only 1 or 2 magical katanas in the whole game. So if you're katana, you'll have to find those katanas. If you miss out, you're basically missing out on, you want to either have an alternate weapon or something else. So you really only choose this if you're playing easy mode or role-playing purposes, really. Usually I just choose longsword. Longsword has the most options for magical items out of almost all the magic items in the game. Longswords get the most love, and longbows tend to most of the time. All the others have magical items, but they're not as much as like the longsword or whatever. So, actually, do want to. I'll get a. Might just do sworded shield maybe instead, and then have a range. It's usually good to have like a melee weapon and a ranged weapon. If you're choosing a wizard, I would just choose a ranged weapon if you decide to attack with them. Now we'll do short bow in this case. Appearance. Yeah, you can customize how your character looks. Let's go with the whole blonde hair, even though you can barely even tell that's on there. Wait. Why does it show as being like this? Looks like it's supposed to be yellow, but then it shows like, yeah, whatever. Clothing. Oh, that's my skin tone. So like I'm pretty pale, not like super pale, but pale enough. And we'll do. There we go. That'll work. Clothing, yeah, clothing really doesn't matter. It's just a way to customize your character and whatnot. Let's go dark and evil. No. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. Oh, and then this game has voices for your characters. So when you're in combat, when you're smacking things, they'll play a little tune. So let's see what default is.
Onward! I feel this is my rightful place. I will require rest soon.
And then you could choose, even if you're male, you could choose male or female voices. So if you want to play it up a bit.
All will die. None other than me should be in this place.
Unfortunately, I don't remember all the voice actresses' names for all these. Some of them are familiar, but...
Your life shall be mine. Death will come swiftly for you.
If you want to do like an old lady, there you go.
Go, go, go! Everybody listen to me now. That was a full day's work.
I think, if I remember correctly, I think female voice 4, 5, and 6 and male 4, 5, and 6 are added to this version. Because I think in the original game, it was like a default in female voice 1 through 3 and male voice 1, if I remember correctly.
Now you're going to be sorry! I've always been leadership material.
Your life shall be mine.
Because you can tell, if you played the female voices 4, 5, and 6, you can tell the audio is different.
Now you're going to be sorry!
It may be where they're recording at, but you can tell it was added later.
I've always been leadership material.
Yeah.
Who's in for it now?
Okay. Yeah.
Death to you all!
Oh yeah, this is the more male one voice is one
As
of the.
it should be.
I must rest my eyes a while.
I'm trying to remember his
Such
voice
a
actor,
waste of time this is.
but he's one of the more. I remember him a lot from the 90s. I remember him having a voice in a lot of things.
Your life ends here.
This is where he gets a bit more haughty.
I
Right here.
alone belong here.
Time for a bit of the rough and tumble.
I think in later versions they actually called it something different. Like instead of it being male 3, it was like broody or angry or whatever. So
You got this coming!
yeah, so you can tell that that's different. The voice, just the echo.
Let's give them a right thrashing. Get over here.
Your life ends here.
I'll do the haughty male character and then name us. I don't know. We'll just call me what we are here. We'll at least get to the beginning of the game because it looks like it took me an hour just to do character customization. Sorry about that. You can also import your character if you'd already made him before, and or him or her before, and just wanted to use them again. Biography, you can also write a biography. There's a basic one here for the gist of the story, which the game will explain here in a second, and we can always read this later. I think you can later on. Yeah, you could edit it if you just want to clear this out and write something else, but that's more for role-playing purposes. So. And then you can also create a party to add into this as well. However, this game has a lot of NPCs, and now if you just want to make a character and you just want to play the game and like do with all the challenges and everything like that, and not care about like the characters outside the world, just create your own party and play it as is. You could also multiplayer this back in the day and have other players play this too. I don't remember the multiplayer being. It had to be same like connection type of thing. It was like LAN party type of stuff. I tend to use NPCs even though they're not perfect. It's a lot more fun having them either converse with you, make comments, or just be there. So I tend to like leave at the party and just get what the game gives me. So this is the difficulty of the game. In the original game, a lot of these weren't here. I think story mode has been added to this, as well as like Legacy of Ball. So if you just want to play like the game as is, not care about anything else, and just play for the story, go with story mode. There's no obviously no achievements or anything like that. So if you just want to try the game and see how it works without any of the hard aches about dealing with like weapons, how you hit, so forth and so on, just do that. Easy basically means the luck is a lot faster. You get a whole lot of modifications to stats and stuff like that, reduced damage. Normal is also added to this. Normal, what it does is it affects it. You don't use basically it changes the game from the core rules of D&D as well. So yeah, in original D&D, people could die permanently and stuff like that if you didn't come back later and raise dead them or resurrect them or whatever. So you almost, if you're playing core rules, you almost want to have like a save scum type of thing where you want to have save points at major areas and sections, so you're not don't lose a character forever, especially if you don't have the ability to raise them for quite a while. And yeah, hit points are maximized, spells can't be copied. or can be copied without failure, stuff like that. In the core rules, you have to abide by the D&D mechanics of it, which I prefer because that's what I'm used to playing. But yeah, if you're not used to the core rules, just play normal if you want to play a regular game without having to worry about how the rules actually are played. Yeah, hard, more damage, enemies inflict more damage, enemies all have more damage, can hit easier, and all this other stuff. And you're basically stuck in it. I would only do that if you're like a master of this. Like,
nestled atop the cliffs that rise from the Sword Coast, the citadel of Candlekeep houses the finest and most comprehensive collection of writings on the face of Farron. It is an imposing fortress kept in strict isolation from the intrigues that occasionally plague the rest of the Forgotten Realms. It is secluded, highly regimented, and it is home. Within these hallowed halls of knowledge, your story begins. You have spent most of your 20 years of life within this keep's austere walls, under the tutelage of the sage Gorion. Acting as your father, he has raised you on 1,000 tales of heroes and monsters, lovers and infidels, battles and tragedies. However, one story was always left untold, that of your true heritage. You have been told that you are an orphan, but your past is largely unknown. Lately, Gorion has been growing distant from you, as if some grave matter weighs heavily on his heart. You have asked about his concerns as gently as possible, but your queries have been in vain. Your sole comfort is the knowledge that he is a wise man, and you know he will tell you when the time is right. Nonetheless, his silence is troubling, and you cannot help but feel that something is terribly wrong. Today, Gorion has appeared more agitated than ever, and now he has uncharacteristically interrupted your chores in the middle of the day, imparting hurried instructions for you to equip yourself for travel. He has handed you what gold he can spare, but given no clue as to why. Nevertheless, you now stand before the Candlekeep Inn, ready to purchase what you need for an unplanned and unexpected journey.
and finally we get to the beginning of the game, and of course the whole episode is me doing the character creation. And that's what the problem is with a lot of these old isometric RPGs. A lot of times you're just making your character and ready to go. So sorry about that. Maybe in the future I'll try to tone down like character creation segments if I ever record more RPGs, because it's not really giving you a good idea of how the game plays when I'm just doing the text stuff at the very beginning of the game. I'll talk about a little bit about the mechanics before we call it an episode. In this game, every time you click on a character, they'll usually say something.
You insist.
Use the left thing to click on a character and have a move. If you hold down the click, you can highlight them or other characters and move them around. You can also right-click as well if you don't want to do that. Usually you'll right-click if you want to attack someone or do something specifically different. And this is telling you how the game works, like combat rounds, movement, stuff like that. Basically, the way combat works is that during combat, you'll have like a bar here, and you'll have like turns as well, and like who goes first and everything with that. And then you can pause the game like this, and you set your actions to what the characters want to do, and they kind of go in real time. I don't know why I said turn order before. There's really no turn order. There would be in like the actual pause in the actual game, but in D&D you can't. You'd have to, because D&D is kind of like a tabletop board game type of situation. But anyway, this you'd pause the game, and then you choose your actions like attack or whatever. So I forgot what the button for quick save is. Let me just do like a really quick save here really quick. So if I wanted to attack a dude, I would just highlight the weapon here and then smack him, and then I'd pause it. And then depending on how good I am, I might... and then now that I killed someone, everyone's... This is like Wasteland 2 all over again, where I kill someone or attack or do something stupid and everyone attacks me. If you kill people that aren't actively attacking you or whatever, it's considered low reputation. Reputation means that's what happens when you die. Yeah, if your main character dies, it's game over. Like, you have to restart. Like, if it's you, the first character you make, if it's any of the other extra characters you make outside of your character, it's fine. But if you yourself die, the first one you make, then you die. But yeah, reputation, what that is, when you saw in the little description bar there, reputation's outside of alignment. It's how people view you. So if you have a high reputation, people respect you, want to help you, all this other stuff. If you have a low reputation, people fear you, don't want to help you, stuff like that. So, but anyway, that's it for this little tutorial, though. Sorry, yeah, it took forever doing that. I showed some gameplay and showed how to play it. So, like I said, I'll try and improve in the future. This is like, I usually don't record these types of games, so or I do them as a seasonal or as a whole group of videos. So it's like, you know, you can eventually get past the part or skip the video. So, but anyway, if people want me to play any more of this, I'll consider. If not, I play these games on my off time for fun. But I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.